Hello everyone, good morning. I hope you've all had a nice weekend and you've been out enjoying the sun or the storms, depending on where you've been. Another week, but it's getting a bit more interesting now that the lockdown is starting to be relaxed ever so slightly. So this week, there's been no change. So this week should be just like last week. Still can't go around and huddle in people's houses, but that changes on Saturday. So on July the 4th, the lockdown rules hopefully will ease a little bit. I say hopefully because we could backtrack if there are more outbreaks or anything, but at the moment, next Saturday, the lockdown rules are eased so that you can spend more time with more people from other households and you can potentially also go into their houses. What was also mentioned was that if there are still people who are really vulnerable, they still have to be isolating, and you're not actually allowed physical contact still. So you can go and stay overnight somewhere, but nowhere did they say you can be going around and hugging and kissing and whatnot. So we still should be socially distant. What they've actually said is try and maintain 2 meters distance from people. You can go down to 1 meter if you absolutely have to. You're not going to hug anyone or anything else from a metre away. Don't even try. Just be careful. Again, for your sake and for the sake of other people that you encounter. It's not a complete end to everything. It's still ongoing. It's just now you can see more people and go into their houses. But you can't get close to them. You can't hug anyone or anything similar. So please bear that in mind. School-wise, results-wise, college-wise, nothing's changed in the last week. There was some more information that came out, but nothing clear yet. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, the next week now, we should hear something more about any potential changes to schools and colleges over the summer and starting again in September. Whether or not it's going to be everyone coming back in, everyone's allowed to come back into school, or everyone can go back into college, or not, we don't know. There are some rumours going around that everything's just going to reopen and be normal, but at the moment they are just rumours, so nothing firm yet. Results day, still no news, still the same day, hasn't changed, so you'll get your results for GCSEs and A-levels the same day that you thought you would have got them if you'd done the exams, but nothing's changed regarding what we know about how that's going to work yet. So whether it's people coming individually or not coming at all and being posted, we don't know. But I'll keep you updated as and when we do. So that's that. So it's good about the lockdown easing, but hold on yet. Hold on, don't go to any massive parties or things yet, because that's not allowed just yet for everyone's safety. I've been asked lots of questions about other skills that people could have and should potentially develop, and I was thinking about experiences that I had, like when I left and went to college and then uni afterwards. And I think some of the things that struck me, which I wish I knew more about how to do before leaving, is just some basic things like, can you cook and wash and clean? Now I know, yes, you can go and get something and put it in a microwave and whatever, and that's what a lot of students do. It's not very healthy, it's why a lot of students also get fat. You're in a good way because most of you being really young have a really fast metabolism, so you can deal with eating loads of junk food and microwave meals and whatnot without it having a knock-on effect immediately. Some of you, less lucky if your metabolism's starting to slow already. But you don't want to get into a situation where all you can do is microwave something. So I would strongly suggest using some time just to learn how to cook, just some simple things, really simple things. The BBC website, bbc.co.uk/food, is really good. I use it quite a lot to try and find interesting things to make. It's separated out by cheap and easy and whatever else. You can find some really nice things there. So I would have a go and just learn some simple cooking skills just for the time when you do decide you want to move out. It could be that you've gone to university, or it could be that you are just moving away from your family and you decide you want your own place. Learn to cook. You'll save a ton of money as well if you can cook for yourself rather than getting takeaways. You can probably make better food than takeaways too. So that's the first one. Learn how to do your own washing is another one. It's not a joke. So many people, like at uni, take their clothes home and get their parents to wash them because they don't know how to use a laundrette. Fair enough. But they don't know how to use a washing machine. I know this isn't, like, potentially it's a year or two away for most of you, but still it's worth thinking about. Make sure you know how to use a washing machine and wash your own clothes, because it's one of those things you don't really think about until you get there and you're like, oh, what do all these buttons do? What are all these dials and times and things? Most people don't know that inside their clothes there's a tag that tells you how you wash it, and it's got symbols on it saying the temperature, saying whether or not you can tumble dry it. And if you don't look at those, if you ignore them and you just try and wash everything together, then your colours can go all funny, you can end up shrinking your clothes, or they just go peculiar and they're not very nice to wear anymore. So make sure you have a read and learn what those little tags and symbols mean when it comes to washing your own clothes. Basic life skill, really useful to have. Likewise, ironing. Same on those tags inside the clothes, it tells you how to iron. Well, not exactly how, but it tells you the temperature, whether or not you can iron. So do have a look at that. Especially if you're going to go to an interview or something, then you want to be wearing something nice, a dress, a shirt, whatever. Make sure it's neat and tidy, learn how to iron. You won't always be able to rely on your parents to do that for you. So make sure you can iron your own clothes without burning them. Do be careful. And then another thing that came to mind, basic first aid. I know from school you would have learnt some first aid, but it's worth just knowing a little bit, even if it's just having an app and like scrolling through like the St. John's app or NHS app or something, just to know some basics. I remember vividly my second year when I'd moved out, lived in a house with 3 other people, and this one guy, he didn't know how to use washing machine, didn't know how to cook really, other than like throwing everything together and then stirring. But there was one occasion where he'd cut himself with a knife, like accidentally. He just like cut through one of his fingers. And I said to him, all right, okay, what you need to do is just hold your hand up while I go and get something to wrap around it, like a plaster or whatever. And I came back in and he was stood up and he had his other hand up in the air, and the hand that was bleeding, he just left in the sink full of the water and the sharp knives, and he was just bleeding out into the sink and saying he doesn't feel very well. And I had no idea that that sort of thing could be misinterpreted. So if you, in that example, hold the hand up that's actually bleeding and put some pressure on it or something. I know it sounds ridiculous. That actually happened. He's fine, he was all right. But know some basic first aid, how to deal with cuts and burns and whatnot. Know how to use a cooker, how to light a gas cooker. If you're moving out, a lot of places have electric, some places have gas. Know how to use both of them as best you can. Like, I'm not saying go out and buy yourself a new cooker. Like, learn to use the one that you've got in your house. Don't rely on a microwave all the time. Know some first aid. Other things. So when you go off to college and potentially into the work and maybe uni as well, you have to realise that when you are getting to your late teens and 20s, you hit a region where you kind of feel like you're unstoppable and like everything is right that you think and say and do. In other words, arrogant, like you're kings and queens of the world. It's normal. It's what a lot of people feel like. Some admit it, some show it off more than others. But keep in mind that you're probably wrong about a great many things. And the fun thing is when you go to college and you go to uni or you go into work, you'll meet lots of other people, all similar age, and the older ones as well, who all think they're right about pretty much everything, but all think different things. So be prepared to be wrong, and be prepared for other people to be wrong. Be prepared for them not to take it well as well. It's a tricky thing to navigate because everyone gets kind of puffed up with their own pride and arrogance, myself included. You have to be prepared to be wrong and recognise that some people know more about things than you do. But on occasion you're going to be right, but you really have to have a discussion to find the truth of things. Don't get drawn into loads of arguments. It's really easy to get into arguments with people when you're in a room when everyone thinks that they're right, but you all think different things. Always dig down to the facts and see what you can find, especially if it's about a big, really important thing. But otherwise, just be prepared to deal with people who always think that they're right. It's really common. Relating to that, know when to speak and when not to speak. out openly. So, like, you're having a conversation with your friends, yeah, by all means disagree politely or however you wish. But if it's someone that's just employed you and they say something, probably not best to go screaming out that they're wrong. Like, I know none of you would really do it, but just choose a time and a place. And especially in days like today, when you can lose your job for saying the wrong thing, even if what you're saying is true, you can get in trouble just for saying something if someone finds it offensive. So be really careful. Choose your battles, is what I would say. You shouldn't be afraid to speak honestly and openly, but use some wisdom in the situation that you're in. It's not always appropriate to share your innermost feelings on everything, especially if people around you disagree. Other than that, I think you have to be prepared, like when you go to college, but more so beyond then. So if you go off to university, or when you go and get a job, prepare to deal with people who believe very different things to you. Be prepared to deal with people who come from very different cultures, different backgrounds, different histories, different lives. They're going to think, act, and believe different things. Not necessarily wrong things, but you're going to meet people whose backgrounds completely differ to your own, who will interpret things in completely different ways. Like, we live in a crazily diverse world, and we're kind of shouted here in Surrey and around, where we don't really get a lot of culture, if you like. But you'll start to see people who've come from other places around the world, who may have been raised in a completely different culture, and you need to be able to respect someone else's beliefs and cultures. Doesn't mean you have to agree with them on everything. Doesn't mean you have to think that what they're doing is right and what you're doing is wrong, or what you're doing is right and what they're doing is wrong. But just be prepared that sometimes what people think is right and wrong from one background doesn't match up with what people think is right and wrong for another background. There are countries in the world where men and women are viewed very differently. They're not viewed equally. And so you have to think, if you're interacting with someone who's come from a region where that's the case, then how do you navigate this and kind of be prepared for them to say things that might shock and upset you? And then think first, how are you going to deal with that? Do you call people out on it or not? They've come from one culture to your culture. What if you went to theirs? Would it be the same thing? Would you follow their rules or not? So just be prepared for people to have completely different backgrounds and ideas about life. It's a wonderful time, college, uni, and work, to meet people who think differently from yourself and learn from them. Doesn't mean that you have to adopt everything that they think, but I think it's always good to talk with people and find out what they believe and why, and what their life has been like and how that affects how they live. Bear it in mind. It's all on the theme of we've grown up in one area and we've got a set of rules and culture and everything that we've been exposed to and we consider normal, but that's very different depending on where you've been born and where you've been raised. And the same for different places in the UK, different cultures, different societies. So bear that in mind. Be open-minded, and don't always assume that you're right. But also, don't always assume the other people are right either. So that was it. It's an exciting time when you get to meet other people. And I think, like, when you go off to college and you start, and you might still be worried about making friends and it having been so long since you've been in that kind of environment. Everyone's got a little story to tell. Everyone's got some personal history they'd like to share with you. I think my advice is to get to know people better and to become better friends. You need to ask them questions about themselves and then genuinely listen. If you do that, and if you show that you're actually interested and you're not just sat there thinking, what am I going to say next, or how long they're going to be talking for, then you'll develop some decent friendships and you'll come across as quite a nice person as well. That's my aim for all of you. I think everyone's capable of being nice people, treating each other excellently, but part of that involves asking questions and listening. That's about it. All right, I think that's it for my tips for today. I've got a stack of them, a stack of questions from a lot of you, which I want to answer. which I'll cover next week. I need to go and pick some of them up because I left some of them in work. But yeah, have a lovely week. Enjoy yourselves. Hopefully you're all enjoying some summer break now, extended summer break. Now that lockdown's lifting, get out there and enjoy yourselves. Just keep that social distancing. And again, if you're applying for jobs and you need any help with that, and I would encourage you to start looking at jobs and things now, let me know. I'm more than happy to help. If you need a reference, let me know. Happy to do that for you as well. All right, take care. Have a lovely week. If you've got any interesting questions or you want to discuss anything that I've been saying today, please feel free to email me. All right, have a lovely week. Bye-bye.